so many things that fascinate me, but ever so often I get back to being reminded of there is this human rights lawyer of decades by the name of Dexter Dias, who's written several pieces. One of the pieces is titled Silence of the Laws, Dissent and Democracy in Cases That Changed Our Lives. And Dexter Dias has had such an interesting impact on a lot of people, to the point where in one of the major decisions coming out of the Supreme Court, a section of his writing in the Silence of the Laws was quoted as a sort of preface to a decision out of the Supreme Court. And it reads, "Dissent has a troubled history." I've quoted it here before, you know. The word dissident has often been a pejorative term. Dissenters have rarely been welcomed and are frequently viewed with suspicion not only by the dominant power, but also by the majoritarian opinion. And yet, in a democracy, dissent is essential. It is indispensable to our freedom. In fact, it is one of the authentic voices of our freedom, particularly in times of exception, in wars declared and undeclared, when the freedom of the citizen is at stake, and particularly when the state itself seeks to curtail fundamental freedoms in the name of national security or economic development, or whatever other perceived end worth pursuing. As I watched the debates on the National Reconstruction Act, NARA, in the Parliament, and this morning, as I read portions of one of the articles in the Jamaica Observer, the proper title of the act is the National Reconstruction and Resilient Authority, NARA. And there's a headline in the paper this morning: Government MP breaks ranks over NARA bill. And it says Malahoo Fort supports opposition's position that proposed legislation needs rework. This, listeners, is a very crucial debate further to the passing, in furtherance of the passing of a law in the Jamaican Parliament for this multi-purpose bill that is intended to aid with the post-Hurricane Melissa reconstruction. And this is because we know that it is about US 12 point something billion worth of damage that we're facing. And we also know that based on the commitments of the international partners, There's probably between 6, 7, probably $8 billion that's available to us, available to some private sector entities for partnership with government, but we do not now have a tool, an administrative entity that is sufficiently purposed to fulfilling the role that is needed after a hurricane such as Melissa. So the Prime Minister told the Parliament and tabled in the Parliament last week this particular bill called the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority NARA Act, that is intended to be the vehicle that's going to be tasked with undertaking billions worth in US dollars, billions worth of work through the engagement with various individuals and entities to rebuild the country. When the Prime Minister opened the debate, he made it clear that this particular bill is perhaps one of the most consequential bills in modern Jamaica. And close to the end of his presentation, even before he sort of took us into the clauses of the bill, he made it clear that he invited views on how the bill could be bettered. In other words, the debate in the Parliament on this particular bill, the debate is so crucial, and we need to get it right so that the fast tracking that is desired, there can be great confidence in the structure that is created, and the structure that is created needs to be accountable to some entity that the Parliament can repose confidence in. So after the tabling of the bill, the debate commenced. And as happens all the time, opposition members take issues with clauses in the bill. But remember, the Prime Minister was open to suggestions as to how the bill could be made better. Let me take a break. Yes, so that was how the Prime Minister ended his substantive run-up to outlining the clauses in the bill last week, that he invites comments on how the bill could be made better, or wording to that effect. So the opposition members, all of them who spoke, slammed it, led by the opposition leader Mark Golding, Peter Bunting, Damian Crawford. And there was a really good presentation from government, as expected by Delano Seawright. Perhaps the strongest in support came from Delano Seawright. But then it came the time for the member for St. James West Central, Marlene Malahoo Ford, to make her presentation. Remember, I have told you on this program before, the cabinet as is now, in my view, doesn't really have the benefit of any seasoned senior legal mind. When a bill is to be drafted, the line minister has to give proper drafting instructions to the drafters. And it is my experience watching the Parliament that the best model that we had came from the Attorney General being an active member in the Parliament, listening to, engaging with a lot of what's going on in the parliament, so that the nuanced instructions that are needed when a bill is to be drafted, they're coming literally from the belly of somebody who is sitting there, who is actively participating, and who can know some of the concerns that are raised by members on the floor, so that when instructions are given, some of those nuances are captured in the instructions. Since we no longer have that sort of framework, I have seen in this new parliament where at least thrice bills tabled and laws drafted have had to be withdrawn after debate on the floor of the parliament, because the bills are ripped to pieces, most times by opposition. But now you have a senior attorney who was a member of the bench, and who by all accounts, even from people who would say to you, boy, you know, when she was a part of the cabinet, the independent thought, she'd get the bill and she'd rip it to pieces in there. So the ripped bill doesn't come to the floor of parliament because it's ripped, so you probably send it back. But know that Marlene Malahoo Forte is no longer a member of the cabinet. The first time it appears that she gets to see a bill is when it is tabled, just as all of the other backbenchers and the opposition members. So the dilemma that she's facing is, what do I do with my genuine and firm opinions on these bills that come? Do I stifle my views for the sake of the appearance of party loyalty? Or must I be true to my conscience, especially in the context where the Prime Minister said this is the most consequential bill to be tabled in the Parliament, and he invited suggestions on its improvement, suggestions that it is expected that they will be incorporated post the sitting of Parliament on Tuesday, so that when it comes time to close the bill and voting is to take place, perhaps next week, the bill that was thrashed Tuesday is not the bill that's supposed to come back. What does one do? And I think that what was done on Tuesday in the Parliament is a model of what is supposed to be done. Do the right thing, especially when it feels very uncomfortable. You do the right thing. Yeah? And what she did was to say that the bill, there's no doubt that a bill of this nature is needed. There's no doubt that an authority such as NARA is needed. But based on what is communicated to the people of Jamaica about what NARA is supposed to do, there are clauses in the bill that will not allow the entity to act in the way that is intended, with the safeguards that we need for an authority that is going to be presiding over funds of quantum perhaps never used by any other authority in Jamaica. Get it right. So I don't really agree with the headline that it's a breaking of ranks. When we're talking about the passage of laws, the only time you really break rank is when it comes to voting. And you can break rank when it comes to voting in two ways. One, abstaining, especially where the numbers are close. If you abstain and the bill doesn't carry, that's a massive breaking of rank. Or if you vote against so that the bill doesn't carry, then that is classic breaking of ranks. But I don't believe in the context of a debate on a bill where invitation is actually made for proposals on the betterment of the bill, and where the leader of government business in the House says that the preferred approach for the sitting of last Tuesday is for all members to give their contribution, so that based on the contributions given, the bill can be amended, the suggestions can be taken, and the thing can come back differently next week for the closing and for the vote to take place. Yeah? And it was, I imagine, the Observer this morning says there has been no official word yet from the leadership of the governing Jamaica Labour Party after one of its members broke ranks over the proposed National Reconstruction and Resilient Authority NARA Act being piloted through the House of Representatives by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. What do you mean by no official word yet? Like what it is they think can happen? What it is you think can happen? And this is why I cite this beautiful coinage by Dexter Dias about the importance of dissenting. And dissenters are rarely welcome. So if the governing Jamaica Labour Party believes that it was so, whatever adjectives you want to use about the presentation, that a word is supposed to come from the leadership, then they'd really call this one incorrectly. You cannot have a senior legal mind on the backbench and expect the legal mind to go dormant and simply be silent at a time when a bill like this is tabled in the Parliament. But this is what the Observer quotes some people as saying. Marlene has always been an independent thinker, so it's no surprise that she disagrees with aspects of the proposed legislation, although it must be noted that she agrees with the need for NARA. And then another source says, as an elected representative sitting in the Parliament, she's certainly entitled to her opinion, but she's not entitled to her own facts. And that is what was disappointed in her presentation. Well, I don't know what that means, because there are no own facts that she presented, but a critical review of the bill. Not only did she, but the other views that are proposed, they can be worked into what will be the final bill. As I understand, the opposition too desires a NARA. What they are concerned about is whether it is appropriate for the bill to speak only to a chief executive officer as constituting the authority, and there's no sort of other framework except a minister who has the ability to intervene from time to time. Is that sufficient? Is that what we really want? We understand the need for speed. We understand the need to get things going, because as the Prime Minister said, we do get into paralysis of analysis in this country. But it is not beyond us to get a better one, a better bill than has been tabled. And the suggestions that have been put forward, I believe, if incorporated, could make the bill better and could have the support of all, including opposition members, when we meet next. So the choice is really one for the government. You're going to either read this, what they're calling breaking of ranks, which is not a breaking of ranks, as there's no vote. There's no vote yet. Yeah? Right? You can either read it as a gift to bettering the bill, Or you can read it as dissension that is so rank that you write her out of the party. Matter for you, JLP. Matter for you. I shall watch and see. Anyway, that's all the time we have at the moment.
The voice of the nation is Radio Jamaica.
Join us next time for Emily's Views on the Hotline.